Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hoops Crush podcast. I am Eric Brandt. I am joined, like always, by the one and only Brady Parks, aka Crushables. How are you today, Brady?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Just got done watching the Pacers win Game 6 over the Knicks, which we'll talk about that series later on in this episode. But first, we filmed a week ago the Friday before the draft lottery. And of course, our Blazers had the fourth best odds by a slight percentage point, but basically tied for third best odds to move up to first and had a 50-50 chance of being in that top four. And for the first time in a couple of years, there's a little bit of chaos. Some teams that were way far down there move up, and the Blazers end up falling 3 whole spots. The worst possible pick they could have gotten was number 8, and they end up with number 7. And the Warriors pick, it was either 14 or bust for us for this year at least, and it ends up being 14. So the Blazers end up with picks 7 and 14. What was your reaction? I know you were doing a live stream for that. Um, how did you react, and how did your audience react while watching it? Take us through your viewing of that
Yeah, I wasn't
reveal.
I wasn't as nervous going into this one. But as soon as I saw like Atlanta jump and Houston jumped, I'm like, oh yeah, we probably got 7. I was like, yeah, this is probably not the best possible scenario that could have happened for us as Blazers fans. But obviously, in my chat, I had all kinds of fans from everywhere. There was a
Mm-hmm.
Warriors fan saying they want to jump at the top board and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
then yeah, I mean, it was crazy, man. The Hawks go from being in the play-in to jumping up to number 1 overall. That just goes to show you what the lottery process truly is. It's, any given team can make that jump, which is kind of wild. And we saw that in this draft lottery where the Atlanta Hawks, it just changed the landscape of their offseason by so much because we knew they'd probably be moving on from one of Trae Young or Trae Young to DeJounte Murray. But now that they have number 1, they technically could keep both because maybe Alex Sarr can make up for some of the defensive deficiencies. They could keep Trae Young, they keep DeJounte. So many different options for the Hawks to choose from. So yeah, it was pretty crazy, and it just changed the entire landscape, at least for the Atlanta Hawks. Going to the offseason for them because I'm definitely curious and excited to see what they do. But as far as us dropping to 7, if this would have been a better draft, probably would have been more painful. It still sucks, don't get me wrong, but it could have been worse. Like it could have been the Wembanyama draft last year, and at least we got a little bit of excitement jumping up to pick 3. If it was like last year we get 7 in that scenario, that would have sucked really badly. But not too upset. It's fine. It sucks, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed. Obviously, anytime you have a team that tanks, you want it to be somewhat rewarding for watching crappy basketball all year. So to fall from a position we got all the way up to a tie for third, down to seventh, just really a bummer because that's what the pick we got in the season where we started off 10-4 and things were going well. End up making some trades later in that season. But for the most part, that was a season where it was like, oh, wow, we're really good. We might have something here. And then the wheels fell off. There's some injuries and all that. But that season, they did the best they could to tank once the wheels did fall off. And I thought getting seventh was like pretty good, all things considered, with how many teams had already started tanking pretty much since the beginning of the season. And then you go to last year, which we pretty much knew that we were going to be bad because I don't know. We knew things were going to be bad, and so but we get the third pick, so it provides some hope and all that kind of stuff. Um, so you're kind of thinking, uh, I might have mixed up the years, but whatever. Like we got the third pick, and that's great. It's supposed to be a really good draft and all that stuff. So we had some options there. 7 just feels like it's okay because there's a lot of players that I think we're okay drafting, but it's still kind of a bummer that we don't get to decide who
Yeah.
that is. We have to kind of just wait and see who rises and who falls, and who's on the board when it comes to our pick. And that's always kind of a bummer. But you
It
you can
could be
find good
worse.
players at any point, and we do have 7 and 14, so you have 2 shots at taking a swing and hitting on an exciting draft pick, or best case scenario, you hit on both, right? So yeah, it's somewhat exciting, but also still kind of a bummer because I think if we got number 1 and got Alex Sarr, I think
Oh yeah.
we'd be really happy right now.
It could be worse though. You could be the Pistons that
Yeah,
dropped to 5 2 years in a row after,
yeah.
being the worst team. So I
I
guess that feels good.
I want to say it was like the last 17 times they've been in the lottery, they've only moved up past their position 1 time.
And that was for the Kid Cunningham draft, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy though.
yeah, man, it's been rough in Detroit, and they dropped to 5 again. So unfortunate. Hopefully they find their guy at 5. I liked Asar for them last year, but we'll see what they continue to do.
And so I know you did a video on this, but Houston's kind of intriguing there at 3. Um, we know last year they made some moves to get some veterans in there. They really wanted to make the play in. Um, they almost did. They had a pretty good season coming from where they were to near the bottom of the standings. And So what do you think? Well, first of all, go watch the video on Crushables. He's also done some cool videos over the last few days. He had one where the Spurs got Rob Dillingham, so you can go check that one out. And then also one about choosing between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell for the Cavs, which we'll get to the real life situation.
Yeah.
That probably prompted that video. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a Hawks one,
Yeah.
there's a Wizards one for number 2. So yeah, all kinds of content available for you on his channel. So go check that out. But yeah, what just without ruining your video, what do you feel like the Rockets should do? Should they continue to go all in terms of making the playoffs, or do you think they should just add another piece there at 3?
This does feel like a trade spot, in my opinion, for the Rockets. I didn't do that in that video because I just wanted to focus on the prospect. And I actually let my community vote for whoever because I have no idea who the Rockets are going to draft at 3. And they voted,
Yeah,
Zachary Ricochet. So is that who the Rockets will draft? I have no clue. But yeah, I was like, I might do a future video where I trade the pick just because I feel like that is such an obvious trade spot potentially for Houston, just because they've been trying to be aggressive and they want to be good. And they signed for Evan Vliet. They, went after Brook Lopez. So it does make a ton of sense for them to potentially trade it, whether that's for Mikal and the Nets get their 3rd overall pick back, or, something along the lines of that where Houston's trading it. Maybe they get in the sweepstakes for Jimmy Butler if he becomes available, or I don't know. But yeah, it does feel like a trade spot for Houston. I would not be surprised if they did trade it, to be honest. Like, that would not shock me in the slightest.
is Mikal your number 1 target if you're Houston?
I wouldn't say number 1. I guess it just kind of depends who
Like
is available.
realistic, I guess.
Yeah, it just depends who becomes available. Brandon Ingram, not sure I would like him in Houston. Mikal, yeah, I guess they wanted Mikal from all reports. Sounds like so. I mean, is Mikal? This is a weak draft, but is Mikal still worth a top 3 pick? I mean, you could debate that, I guess, but I don't know. I guess that would be the best if Houston is dead set on Mikal and they think there's they could get him and he'd be a lot better than anyone they could draft at 3. Then maybe you go that route, especially with the way they want to do things right now.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to the Hawks real quick, if you were in charge of the Hawks, would you try to make it all work and just add Sar, or are you splitting up one of them, and which
I
one
think
are
I'm
you?
still trading one of them just because it just felt like they weren't very good with each other. As
Mhm,
far as who I'd pick, that remains to be seen. But someone brought up someone brought up a good point when I was asking my community tab about this because I wasn't sure either. Like, do the Hawks keep both, trade both, or keep one of them? Maybe it would be best to just trade both. But I guess if you were to keep one of them, someone brought up the idea how trade or building around Dejounte Murray's contract would be a lot easier. So I
mhm.
guess that's a solid point. But Trae Young obviously probably a lot more talented of lot more talented of an offensive option. But Murray can be good on the defensive end. Yeah. So it's tough. I think honestly, if I was in their position, I think I'd potentially just trade both away. But I do understand the philosophy of keeping one of them for sure, especially considering they don't have their picks. So yeah, I guess maybe it doesn't make a ton of sense to trade both of them, but unless if you could convince San Antonio to give your picks back or something. But yeah, so I'd keep one of them at least, and I guess if I had to choose, maybe it would be Dejounte Murray because I feel like Trae Young would get you more anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if I mean, I don't think the Spurs are doing it for DeJounte, but there keeps on being rumors that they're interested in Trey Young.
Yeah.
So if you can get four, they have the fourth and the eighth picks. So if you can get four and like one or two of your future first back, that would be intriguing to me. But at the same time, I mean, Trey Young is one of the best lob throwers, slash getting into the paint and distributing point guards there is in the league. Um, so I'd like to see him with a younger 7 foot big like Alex Sarr. I think they could form a really nice duo. And then if you get any pieces from a DeJounte trade, maybe you make some other moves like trading DeAndre Hunter and stuff, just kind of rework your front court around Jalen Johnson, who had a breakout year last year. I don't think they're that far away from getting back to being good. They just have this propensity to like hold on to pieces too long and wait through trade deadlines and off seasons to not just like make that move to get better. We saw it with John Collins for like it felt like 15 seasons. I know he hasn't played that long, but like it felt like every year they were like, okay, we're trading John Collins, like this like they're at odds with each other and stuff, and then they never traded him. It's just like Indiana with Miles Turner.
Yeah.
You used to always hear those rumors too. But they ended up keeping him, and it was fine. But um, for the Hawks, I think they just need to rework their entire like kind of middle core, um, and try to figure some things out there. And I think if you trade Dejounte and DeAndre Hunter, you should be able to get a few of those pieces. But I do understand, you have the number one pick. You can maybe just do a full rebuild, but I don't. Something tells me in that situation, um, as much as I like Alex Sarr, I don't know if he's like best player on your team type rebuild,
Yeah.
like as a most number one picks would be. I don't know if I feel 100% comfortable um, going all in on just him as your like main focal point. So I'd probably keep Trey around at least for another year, but like I said, it's debatable.
So many different avenues for them to take with that number one option or number one pick now. That's really awesome for them, and can't wait to see what they do.
So are you still kind of unsure about prospects, or do you have someone you're hoping that falls to the Blazers at 7?
Nah, I don't really have anybody that I'm hoping for. I just kind of follow your guys' lead on that for the most part because
All
I
right.
haven't watched any of G League Ignite games or anything like that, so I don't know any. And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of the range for some of the guys we potentially could get. And I don't know a lick about them, at least at this moment. I'm sure eventually when we get closer to the draft, I'll start watching a little more highlights. But for now, I don't really have anything at the moment.
Yeah.
Full transparency.
And then you can just whoever we draft, you can just watch a highlight video of them and think they're the best player ever,
Exactly. That's
right?
exactly it.
Nice.
When
Yeah.
we were talking about the seventh pick, a couple years ago, I remember you talking about Benedict Mathurin. And I definitely fell in love with his highlights at the time. So yeah, I'm sure I'll eventually get around to falling in love with someone's highlights. That's for 7.
Benedict Mathurin, the forgotten man in this Indiana
Yeah.
for this
I
Indiana
always
team
keep
because
forgetting he's injured, man.
yeah, they traded away Heald obviously, but then Mathurin was out for the year. Yeah, I really like Matherin's game. I still don't know what he is yet in the NBA, but yeah, I was really hoping he would fall to us, but once it played out the way it did, obviously I like Shaden Sharp too, and
Yeah.
was a great pick for a team that needed to swing for some upside there. Yeah, works out. So hopefully that core surgery had gets him fully healthy and he can play next year because I missed watching him play most of
Me
this year.
too, man. Me too.
All right, so the draft lottery happens, and then later on the week, the one series of the four that's over now, the Celtics win in 5 games. It ended up being just like the Miami Heat series, and unfortunately for the Cavs, it just kind of ended with a thud. They don't get Jared Allen back at all, and then Donovan Mitchell. Um, misses the last 2 games, and any chance they had went out the door. I forgot. I think that was game 4. They came out hot and had a lead at halftime. Was shooting the 3 ball really well, and then just kind of fell apart in the second half. But unfortunately, they just didn't have enough firepower to compete with this Boston team. I still think that Boston, no matter what, it's a failure if they don't at least win the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if you're still on that path or
Oh,
if you
yeah,
think one of
definitely.
those other teams could get them. But for Boston, yeah, it's win the East or it's a failure. But the Cavs immediately following the loss, it would just seem like report after rumor after
Yeah.
report and like just here's Shams, here's Woj, here's whoever just tweeting out all this stuff. And it started with JB Bickerstaff would be evaluated and we'll see if he's brought back.
Not
Uh
shocking at all,
yeah,
but we'll
I mean
see.
obviously yeah, they should evaluate it. You thought maybe once he won the first round series that he's maybe probably safe, but who knows there.
But everything else that came out felt pretty
Yeah.
shocking. So,
And then
yeah.
we all knew that Donovan Mitchell was it's obviously the key to their future right now. Um, he has, I believe, one more year left on his deal before he can opt out. So if the Cavs don't trade him this year, they potentially risk him walking if he didn't sign an extension. Um, he's tweeted out at some reports and people saying it's cap. Um, but I don't know, man. It's gonna be um, the key for them is to locking him up, and we thought that would solve everything, right? If they just lock Donovan Mitchell up to a long term deal, which I think I don't. You can chime in if you disagree, but I Donovan Mitchell's proven to be one of the best players in the league this year, and I mean, he's been doing it for years, but especially in the playoffs, he had some just huge games, uh, carried that Cavs team through a lot of struggles. Um, and so, like, it would be a huge loss to lose him. Um, but then we find out if they do sign him to an extension, Darius Garland is going to request a trade then because he doesn't. I guess he's sick of being second fiddle. It kind of bugs me when players have this mindset and don't want to win. But what did you think of those rumors that Darius Garland would have to be traded if they re-sign Mitchell?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because I didn't think there was any chance that Mitchell was staying, and then now it's like there is a chance that Mitchell will sign an extension up in Cleveland. But if that he does, Garland's gonna want out, which I was like, dang, I didn't even think that was an option. I thought, 100% that Garland is the future of Cleveland. No matter what, he'd be the guy. He'd return to form once, Mitchell's gone. But now it's like it sounds like the Cavaliers almost have the choice to choose between one or the other. It didn't ever feel like Mitchell was going to stay here, but now that feels like that's on the table. That's very interesting. And not only do they probably have to choose from, Mitchell and obviously Garland, they might have to choose from their front court as well with Mobley and Allen. Allen apparently refused to take a shot to help him play through the pain. Didn't want any part of that. Mobley's emergence at the certain position, has looked pretty good, especially in Game 5. He had a great game. So it feels like, giving him the keys to that center position can make a lot of sense. No matter where the Cavs decide to go with this, whoever they trade away, they should get plenty of value back. Now, as far as, what that value is going to look like, that remains to be seen. People brought up the idea of Brandon Ingram coming back to Cleveland for whether it's, Garland or Jarrett Allen or whatever it may be. But there's going to be so many different options for the Cavs to take. Now, as far as if I'm Cleveland, and I don't know if I'm choosing Garland, and in my video, I chose Garland because I was like, it just feels obvious that Mitchell is going to stay here. But if he does want to stay and signs extension, he clearly is the better player and probably gives the ceiling of winning a championship more than Garland would. But the window would be now rather than, Garland's just, only 24. So you have a little bit longer. Mitchell, I think, is like about to be 28, 27, something like that. It's interesting because it just all depends what you could get back, I guess, because the time would be now. If you keep Mitchell, you got to go now because he isn't going to want to stay if he can't win. And if you're Garland, if you keep Garland, Mobley, you have probably keeping Mobley no matter what. But if you're going to go with Garland, you have a little bit more time. But Mitchell, it would be pedal on the gas. It's interesting. It's very interesting to see what this team is going to do. And I'm excited to see the aftermath of this Cleveland team after it's all said and done because there were so many different things I didn't even realize were going on. And Mobley apparently told the Cavs not to draft him at one point before the draft. Was crazy, which I never even knew that was even a thing. And I don't think any of us really knew that. So a lot of interesting things came out after they lost. And it feels like that's the theme when a team loses and there's a bunch of question marks. You just get all these reports from Shams and Woj and all this, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, so the 2021 draft class, that would be like Cade and Jalen Green, Evan Mobley. Those guys are all going into or will be going to their 4th season next year, which means this summer they're all extension eligible. And so, yeah, just like Donovan Mitchell, the question becomes, would Mobley sign an extension and potentially lock himself into having no leverage to demand a trade? I know you always can, but if they had him locked up for like 4 or 5 more years, can he really get out of Cleveland if he wanted to? Or would he leave like a ton of money on the table and just play out the year and then accept a qualifying offer, have to play out another year, and then just hope that he gets signed by someone in free agency that would be like 2 years from now? I don't know. That seems like you'd be crazy to leave potentially, I don't know, somewhere between a very large contract and a max contract on the table just to have that happen. So, yeah, I think the Cavs are in a decent position because, fortunately for them, they're all under contract. It just seems weird because it's like, I mean, you mentioned the guard's age, and I think Mobley is he's only like 22 or something like that. Like he's really young still, despite playing in the league for 3 years. And then, Jarrett Allen has been around a while since the 2017 draft, but he's not like old or
like
anything.
26, so he's right there.
Yeah. So when they made the Mitchell trade, it's like, wow, this team, it might not be like the best fit, but they could play the 2 bigs to kind of make up for having a smaller backcourt, and you just give them a couple years to add some pieces around it. I think Strus ended up being a pretty good pickup for them. they traded for Karis LeVert a couple years ago. I I don't know if that was like the greatest move or anything, but you'd think like this offseason they have a chance of really finding that small forward that fits um, with those four guys. It was just kind of surprising to me that it doesn't. All these comments and rumors are like of seemingly teams that would hate each other, right? Not
Yeah.
like playing with each other. So it just seems kind of weird that all these like young players who, I mean, they haven't had any like real success, but making the playoffs for this Cavs team was a good step last year. Disappointing playoff series against the Knicks, but then they come back this year and win the first round. And then, I mean, it's not anyone's fault that Mitchell and Allen were out. I mean, maybe the Cavs blame or Allen for missing those games, but I don't know. It just seems kind of weird that like there wasn't something drastic that happened. It's like if they lost to the Magic in the first round, and that was 2 straight years where they were the higher seed and lost in that 4-5 matchup with home court advantage and all that. Then I could maybe see things falling off the rails, but I don't get it for a team that is still. It's not like they've like hit their peak and are on the downslope of these guys' career. It seems like they still have a bit of a slope they can go for a higher ceiling in terms of contention. It just seems kind of weird that they all just abandoned that now.
Yeah, it just seems like a bunch of young guys that, there was a report that said Mitchell grew frustrated with the guy's lack of seriousness in the playoffs, and then that was the tweet you referred to where he, commented cap or whatever. So, yeah, there's a lot of weird turmoil right now going on in Cleveland, and I assume there's gonna be a lot of change on this team, and it's gonna be interesting to see who's brought in and who's sent out. Does Mitchell end up staying in Cleveland after no one thought that was going to be possible? Does
Mm.
Garland get sent to like a team like San Antonio, which just happened in our mock off season? So like, it's just all interesting, and I did not expect an implosion like this. I thought maybe Mitchell would be sent out, and then you could trade your Allen, but I didn't know it'd be as dramatic as this, as the way it's going right now.
There's only one thing that can just completely turn this 180 for the Cavs. Do you know?
LeBron.
Yep,
Yep, I knew
LeBron
exactly where
James.
you're going with this.
They got to draft Bronny, and then they got to convince LeBron to come back
Sitting
uh, for a
front,
third tenure. Yeah, he
sitting
was at the game.
courtside. Yeah.
So yeah, he needs another tenure there in Cleveland. Man,
It would be cool if
that'd
he
be pretty
did.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I would love that.
I don't think he'll leave LA, but if he does, I want that to be the thing that happens.
Yeah, they could just go like, "Hey, I know everyone doesn't like each other here, but we could get LeBron James. Imagine plugging in LeBron at that small forward spot with Garland Mitchell. You could
Mhm.
probably still trade Allen if you wanted to, but yeah, that would be disgusting. That would be fun, but more than likely
The
not gonna happen.
Yeah, the cool thing in my opinion though is just we now have yet another team that's like, oh man, they could make huge trades this
Yeah,
offseason
exactly. This
or
offseason
whatever.
is shaping up to be fun.
Yeah, because we already have Philly and their 60 some million in cap space potentially. We have the Clippers who have Paul George as a free agent. Are they going to be able to retain him? And what do they do if they don't? And then where does he go if he leaves? And now we have this situation. We have Miami who, they failed to make a big move last offseason that um, Jimmy Butler and Bam were hoping that they went all in last offseason. They do not. They kind of run it back. Jaime Jaquez was a pretty good pickup for them, but not enough. And now, like, people are saying you can't be crazy and run it back again. So do they make a move? And are they able to get someone with the assets they have? And then you have a team like the Orlando Magic who were a great story this year. They've got the 5th seed, have a really good defense, um, and they're just like loaded with cap space and assets and stuff. They could make a huge move. So yeah, it's going to be quite the offseason, I think, and I don't know what to expect really, but the more teams that enter this mix of like, man, they could blow it up or they could uh, trade in one of their guys, and if they're smart, they could really take off in a new direction. I can't wait for it all to start happening, man.
Yeah, I think the boring trade deadline, I think this summer is going to make up for it. At least I hope so. It feels like it's going to.
Yeah, hopefully for the Blazers too, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
they they got Delano banned, which is fine, but like that can't be your only move, right?
Yeah, we have to, sign, or we have to draft Bronny and get LeBron here or something. No, I'm kidding, but yeah,
Yeah.
let's hope for some fireworks this offseason. Should be a ton of fun.
All right, so there's one other series that has not made it to a game 7, and that's the Thunder and Mavs. What do you think of the kind of ebbs and flows of this series so far? And who do you think you think the Mavs are going to close them out in game 6 at home, or do you think it's going back for 3 out of the 4 to be a game 7?
I feel like this is going to distance. I do feel like this is going to a game 7. It has been a very fun series so far. Obviously Dallas and OKC split at an OKC, and then they split in Dallas, and then Dallas comes to game 5 over the Thunder and wins. And it felt like Dallas should have won game 4. They really gave it up there at the end.
Yeah.
And, they had control for most of the game. And so, like, the whole time I was watching game 5, I was just like, okay, Dallas has full control of this game again.
Yeah.
Are they going to blow it again? That was my whole thought process. But it has been a fun series. And, Josh Giddey gets benched finally for Isaiah Joe in game 5. And now we get a game 6 in Oklahoma City, or in Dallas tomorrow. So Dallas has a chance to close them out at home. I think this is a chance you want to take. Luka Doncic, of course, not 100% healthy. It's already been said that, he'd be sitting out for 2 weeks if it wasn't for the playoffs right now. So he is really battling through some stuff, but he's had some up and down games. Kyrie has yet to feel like even explode in this series just yet. And I wonder if maybe we get that tomorrow, by the time you guys are seeing this tonight, like, can we get a Kyrie performance, an explosive one? Because I feel like that if they get that tomorrow, and then PJ Washington, man, like, he has turned into the ultimate role player for them. It feels like every single night they have some other role player just popping off. Derek Jones in game 5 was incredible. So I feel like if they get a good Kyrie game, this series is over. But we'll see. It should be fun. I do feel like it's going 7. Shea's been incredible, of course. Jalen Williams, though, has not been that great in this series at all. So hopefully I can get something out of him a little bit more. Well, other than that, I'm excited. I'm excited for game 6. I will be at a party, though, so I'm hoping to watch it as much as I can. I'm really disappointed, but it is my friend's
dedication.
Yeah, it's my friend's birthday, and he was
obsessive.
at my thing last week. But he said we could maybe have the game up, so I'm going to pay attention as much as I can. But yeah, that's why I'm kind of hoping it goes to 7. That way I can really lock into game 7.
Mm-hmm. Well, with the Thunder, you have to keep in mind that like most of these guys have never been in this situation before, both in terms of not only playing an 82 game season, which they've all. This was Chet's first time doing that, but SJ and Jalen Williams had done that before, but going beyond it, right? Like not only 82 games, but now you're. How many did their first round series? It only went 5, but this is going to be game 6. So you're already like,
they swept
yeah.
Pelicans.
They swept them. Right. So you're about to be into your 10th game, in addition to playing the 82 games. And then not only that, but you're dealing with the pressure of the moment and the pressure of if you lose this next game, you're going home. So yeah, I can't wait to see how the Thunder react to that, and if they can overcome that, or if it just proves to be too much. But we saw the Pacers in Game 6 facing elimination, blow out the Knicks tonight. And then last night we saw just the Wolves facing elimination in Game 6
Blew the
absolutely
doors
annihilate the
off the
Nuggets.
Nuggets.
I
Yeah.
mean, that game was so boring.
Yeah.
A lot of those games in that series have been boring, but like
It's
I
just
don't
been
know.
like crazy. It's like
Yeah.
it's not like it's good basketball. Like one team is playing good basketball, obviously, but it's not been both sides. And then
Mhm.
you're just like shocked at how much these teams are getting blown out. Obviously, through the first two games, it was absolutely shocking to see Denver get bullied the way they were. So I think that's been the fun part of it. Hopefully, we get an instant classic for Game 7. We need a close game in this series, and I have to imagine that we're going to get that. And you could see how aggressive Anthony Edwards was for that Game 6 and how much he wanted, to force us to a Game 7. We need that again. We need that again. And, Jokic is going to be good. Jamal Murray has been not very good, but Aaron Gordon somehow just hits every three now, apparently. So it's been fun in the sense that it's been like surprising what these games are like, but not in the way you'd want it to be, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, well, going back to the Game 6 for the Thunder and Mavs, um, here's the difference though. Both the Pacers and Wolves were going back home for Game 6,
Mm-hmm.
but Dallas is in the driver's seat getting a home game as the team that's up 3-2. So this is the first one of these series that has that scenario. And that's why I think, unlike those other two series, I think Dallas gets it done and closes out the Thunder here, because even though home court has not really been that big of an advantage for them, I think they've split almost every game. When they played twice, they did it in the first and second round. Now they're back-to-back games there. So yeah, but something tells me, like Kyrie just seems due, man. Like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He
he's got to
seems
have a
due.
big game, like you said, and yeah, and the role players aren't. I mean, of course, like you're not expecting Derek Jones to score as much as he did last game, but those guys have been pretty good all season, and even someone like Dante Exum, who got benched for Jaden Hardy in the second half of that game. Like he had some really good moments this season where he provided a spark, and I remember a game against Portland where he hit a bunch of threes. And so they have role players that have been doing this ever since the trade. Gafford went through a stretch where he didn't miss a shot for like seemingly 20 games. And PJ Washington wasn't even that good regular season wise, at least offensively, since the trade, but he's picked it up in the playoffs, and is certainly a capable player. So yeah, it's kind of I don't know if you can expect role players to go off like they have, but those guys have been steadily consistent all season. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a shock if one of them has a big game and it leads to a win. But on the flip side, for the Thunder, man, like you mentioned, Jalen Williams has to be like he was in the regular season. He has to step up, and they have to have their main guys. I mean, we know SGA is going to get his, but primarily Jalen and Chet have to have big games, in my opinion, if they're going to win this one.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot go out there and do what you've been doing if you're Jalen Williams. You need to help Shea in this game because he needs you, man. This is a winner go home situation. And yeah, I'm expecting Kyrie to show up. Let's see if Jalen Williams is going to show up.
Yep. All right, so 2 Game 7s on Sunday. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
We finally got. I mean, we got one out of the 8 series in the first round,
And
but now we're guaranteed to have 2 in the second round. That's awesome. The one in the first round, we wanted a Game 7 in the Garden with Knicks and 76ers. Didn't get that, unfortunately, but we got it now. Knicks, who knows who's going to be playing in this game? Everyone and their mom is hurt on this team. So now Josh Hart has a stomach issue, pulled something in his abdomen tonight. Man, what do you think? The Pacers have not been good on the road this postseason. They've been awesome at home. The Knicks have been pretty good at home as well. So do you think they're going to take care of business in this one, or do you see the Pacers upsetting them and making it to the Eastern Conference Finals in their first year in the playoffs in a while?
I think the Pacers are winning Game 7.
Oh,
I think they're winning Game 7. And it's bold for me to say that because they, like you mentioned, they have not been good on the road. But Josh Hart getting hurt really scares me just because I know he's going to play through it, but he seemed to be really aggravated by it. And there's only one day of rest, and then you go right back to work on Sunday, very early in the day. I think they play at 2:30, or that's my time, and it'll be different for you. But so yeah, and I'm expecting an aggressive Hallie, an aggressive Siakam to get this one done. The Knicks have been just battle tested with injuries, and it's really starting to catch up on them, I think. And I also feel like the Pacers, although did Brunson really had 31 tonight? It did not feel like he had 31 at all. It felt like
I mean, look at the shot attempts.
yeah, it
He
was
had almost
crazy.
30 shots, I think.
Yeah, so like I cannot believe he had 31 because I kind of stopped watching towards the end because it was done. But I feel like the Pacers, really, they've gone away sometimes from Nesmith guarding Brunson, but Nesmith is really giving Brunson problems when he's guarding him. They did throw Nimbard at him sometimes at night as well, but I feel like if you could just put Nesmith on Brunson, if he could keep out foul trouble, but I don't know, man. For some reason, I just have this gut feeling that the Pacers are going to win Game 7. As long as Halliburton comes out aggressive and stops being so passive, and then Siakam, if they get a repeat performance from tonight and go back to Game 7, do that same thing. It is in Madison Square Garden, and we know how crazy that crowd is. So I'm hoping for a close game, but my gut's telling me that the Pacers win in 7.
Brady, did you see the Knicks walking into the game before Game 6?
No.
Did you see what happened?
No.
I feel like this always backfires on teams. Like, it probably has no bearing on the outcome of the game, but the Knicks were all black because they were going to a funeral.
Oh, I did not even know that. That's crazy.
And I guess a couple of players had white shirts on underneath, so maybe they're going to say it wasn't meant to be that way or not. But yeah, most of them were dressed in all black. And I feel like the winning percentage in those situations when you do that is like 0% because it feels like it always like you're trying to psych yourself up for something, but it never works out. I don't know. That's crazy to me. And I was saying the opposite of the Pacers. They every time they've won a game, well, since the play-in tourney, basically, or not the play-in, the midseason tournament, it's like they win a championship, like even if it's not the championship. And so, you have Halliburton talking crap again tonight, and all that, and so it's kind of gone. In my opinion, it's been like they haven't come out as focused the game after they have a really good game and are talking all that crap. The Game 4, I forgot what Halliburton said, but he's yelling at someone to respect him or know my name or whatever he was saying. And then they come out and lose Game 5. So yeah, I don't think it's bad to like a bad prediction to pick the Pacers, but I feel like outside of that stupid funeral thing, I feel like the Knicks have just been a lot more composed throughout these playoffs. And I think that's going to help them a lot when it comes to the pressure of a Game 7. Now, if everyone's hurt and no one's moving right, it might be a moot point because the Pacers can get out and run really fast. And if I'm Rick Carlisle and the Pacers, that's my strategy. I am just going to run and gun the entire game, just keep subbing in and out and just be relentless because even if a lot of those guys play, I don't think with how short of a rotation Tibbs usually has that they can keep up with it and sustain that for a full game. Whereas I feel like the Pacers are still in a pretty good position to do that.
Does OG have a chance to play Sunday? I don't even know.
Um, I think he has a chance, but I wouldn't count on it knowing
Yeah,
him. Like
yeah,
that's one of the problems. That's for years, Portland obviously was rumored to get him, and it's just I don't know, man. Especially after this year, when you have to pay him, he's going to get a huge raise. I think he's making about 18 million or so right now, but
yep.
it's probably going to be closer to a max this summer. So it just scares me to pay someone that much money who seems to be not available so often. Um, so yeah, it's a tough situation. I haven't heard an update on whether he has a chance to play or not, but I know they've been listing him as like doubtful, and then ruling him out pretty early for games. But it's not like fully out, so I don't know. Maybe unlike Jared Allen, he'll actually fight through it and play.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm going Pacers in 7. That's my
All
bold
right.
prediction. So we'll see if that ages well at all. Maybe it won't. Who knows?
I mean, it's bold because like Game 7 on the road when you haven't played well on the road, that's uh, a pretty crazy prediction. But honestly, these playoffs so far, I wouldn't like nothing surprises me so far. There's a lot of evenly matched teams. Um, there's a lot of blowouts that don't make sense. Like the Nuggets. We'll move on to that series. Man, what the heck was that game 6, dude? Like, they didn't even want to show up. Like, did they even want to get off the plane there? Like, what are you doing? Like, you have a chance to eliminate a team that is. I mean, Minnesota's been very. I mean, they were great in the first round, obviously, but this series, it's kind of like what I was saying about the Pacers. It seems like every time they have a good game, they start feeling themselves or whatever, and then it's like just the roller coaster here. Because then, like game 3 and 4, it looked like, and then game 5, it looked like they were completely done, and this Denver team just took over. And you have that huge Jokic performance in game 5, um, and then the Nuggets just come out and play one of the worst games I've seen in the playoffs in a long time, and it was just really sad to watch that effort. I mean, I couldn't even watch it at some point, like because it was just such boring basketball. But then we have at the whole fourth quarter, Jokic is on the bench,
Like
but
10
he's not
minutes
sitting
left.
down. He's standing up off to the side a little bit and just staring at the court the entire rest of the game after he subs out. Do you think that's him like mentally preparing for the next game, or thinking about what he's going to do in Europe over the off season, or what
He's
was
thinking
that
about
all
his
about?
horses
Yeah,
going out of here already.
who's going to win the next horse race? Or...
I have no idea. I didn't even know he was standing off to the sideline. As soon as they pulled the starters, like 10 minutes left, I turned the game off again. I was like, yeah, this
Right.
is over. So, um, Mike Malone made the decision to just rest the guys for like 10 minutes left in the fourth, and
I mean, they
just
were down like 30
yeah, no, for
something.
sure. You just don't see that too often. I feel like,
Mhm.
so
I
it's
thought it was
so
pretty smart, actually.
yeah, I think it is smart as well because you're going game 7. You might as well just go ahead and call this one and rest up. And Minnesota quickly decided to do the same thing once they realized Denver, had conceived the night. So I'm excited for Game 7, to say the least. Minnesota came out, and props to them because they had lost 3 straight, and they lost all the momentum, and it felt like Denver could have just closed them out, and it's a done deal, and Minnesota would be going out sad. But Edwards in the press conference, the way Anthony Edwards is, he said that he told staff members in Denver, I'll see you. I won't say what he exactly said, but I'll see you guys for Game 7, which is just, awesome confidence to hear from Edwards. Maybe it's cockiness or whatever, and maybe some people don't like it. I feel like Edwards is a very liked guy, at least at this moment. Maybe that changes in the future because people like to see the rise, but then they love to see the fall. They start hating on the guy that's, taking over too long. But man, game 7 in Denver was, the last time we saw a game 7 in Denver, we know what happened. We had CJ McCollum go absolutely bananas. And in that closet back there, I actually have the picture of CJ McCollum blocking Jamal Murray. I would pull it out right now, but I won't. But I'm excited. I'm excited for game 7, man. And I as far as who I think is going to win, that's tough. Like, I felt like felt pretty easy to pick Indiana just because of all the injury stuff with New York. But with the with the Nuggets and Wolves, it's just been so back and forth. And I know I chose a Denver Dallas Conference Finals, but part of me wants to see the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets and dethrone them. So just for the fan of me wanting to see that, I'm gonna say Minnesota goes to Denver and wins game 7. But I wouldn't be
both road teams.
I wouldn't be surprised if I was wrong.
No, I mean I don't think that's crazy at all, because Anthony Edwards is certainly capable of just putting this team on his back and William to victory. We've seen it many times already in the playoffs. And that guy doesn't seem to be afraid of any moment or situation or anything like that. So, like you said, that confidence, that cockiness, I think, I don't know. He, like, when you're that way, you probably like want these moments, unlike a lot of people who, like, I don't know, if I was playing in this game, I would be like, I don't even know if I could like shoot the ball at all. I would be just like hot potatoing it because I would be so nervous to like mess up, right? So, but some people just have that in them where they just can perform no matter what the stakes are. And so it'll be really cool to watch Anthony Edwards in this situation, and see if he can will this team to victory. Cat looked like he was seriously hurt last game. Thankfully, he was able to come back in. So I don't think the injuries are too bad for Minnesota.
Edwards had a scare too when he.
Oh yeah, Edwards had a scare. I almost forgot about that too.
Yeah,
and then Conley missed the game, but he was back last game. That really helped them a lot. But yeah, then you look at the flip side, though. I mean, Jokic is capable of also carrying the team, obviously. And look what he did in Game 5 when he gets aggressive and
cooked Gobert the whole night.
Yeah, and he was like calling him out, like, and going right at him. So like he's also the kind of guy who could just completely win this series with his play. So I think it's pretty simple to come down to those two battling it out. And
do you think it's as simple as if Edwards and Nikola Jokic show up like we expect them to? Do you think it's as simple as, is Cat going to show up, or is Jamal Murray going to show up? Because both, Jamal Murray has been bad. Cat's had his games. Yeah. But yeah, I think Denver really needs a Jamal Murray game because he has not been very good.
That's what I was going to say. It's not even as simple as Cat versus Jamal Murray. I think it's just Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
Like, if Jamal Murray shows up, I think Denver wins. If he doesn't, I think Minnesota wins.
And Edwards has been doing a really good job defensively on him. So
yeah, because like we were talking about role players and stuff, and Michael Porter Jr.'s had his moments, but he's struggled a little bit. But Aaron Gordon's been really good, and I don't expect that to like change because he's just in a perfect situation for his skill set. And so it really has come down to Jamal Murray in some of these games, and he didn't have good first two games. They lose both of those. Then he plays better the next two, and they win those, and so like I really think it just comes down to him. He's the key. If he has another stinker, the only way I think they can survive it is if he just doesn't shoot much. but then you got to come get your offense from somewhere. So unless Jokic has another like 40 or 50 points or something, like I don't see how they can win if Jamal Murray is struggling.
Yeah, this is going to be one for the ages, as they say. I cannot wait to see 2 Game 7s on Sunday. It doesn't get much better than that. Will we get a third Game 7? That'd be cool as well.
Yeah.
But I'm also okay with Dallas just winning Game 6 because I do want to see Luka in the conference finals again. So
Yeah. And unlike the Pacers, the Wolves obviously have won 2 out of the 3 games in Denver in this series, so I don't think they're necessarily scared to go there. Normally, you'd say maybe it was an advantage for Denver for the elevation and stuff, but I don't think that's going to be too big of a factor here. Um, I'm kind of the opposite of. I know you just mentioned like you like to see teams dethroned. Um, I'm kind of the opposite for some reason. Like I kind of like when like I didn't want Denver to win last year, but now once they won, I kind of want them to go far again. So they're like the next round is the one you have to dethrone them from, not the second round. And then Minnesota next year then can go past the second round and go further. So I not that I'm rooting for Denver over Minnesota, but I don't know. I kind of like when teams that are good do it for several years in a row, and then you have to beat them to win a championship, not just um, dethrone them early in the playoffs.
yeah, I know some people actually hate the Nuggets. I personally wouldn't mind if they won it again. I wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I actually like watching them a lot, but I know
Yeah,
some people are out there that just hate the Nuggets, don't want to see them win or whatever. But I'm not personally like that. If they win, it would not hurt my feelings at all. It wouldn't make me mad. They're fun to watch, so especially Jokic, of
yeah.
course.
I'm not a huge fan of the Nuggets. Obviously, they're one of the Blazers' biggest rivals, being in the same division and all that kind of stuff, matching up in the playoffs a couple times recently. But yeah, I love big men who have the court vision that Jokic has. Uh, just such beautiful basketball to watch. Just watching his vision and just anticipating where players will be, how they play off of that. Aaron Gordon with his cuts to the basket, and that kind of stuff. It's just that's awesome basketball to me. So I don't mind watching them. Like you said, they're fun. But I also don't like them. Like screw Denver. But yeah. So I don't really care. I guess who wins this series. I just please don't be a blowout. Like
Yeah, let's get some
come
close games
come
for
down to the
sure.
end. Let's see an Anthony Edwards like big shot in the last minute of the game to either take the lead or something like that, and then Jokic getting the ball back. Like let's have some fun with that. Jamal Murray, can he hit another game winner this
Yeah.
postseason? Like those are the kind of things that I want. I just how awesome would that be if this game 7 lives up to that kind of hype?
It would be awesome. I would love it. Hopefully we get that. That'd be amazing. Remind me of
Yeah.
the 2019 playoffs where Dame hits the buzzer beater, then Kawhi hits the buzzer beater. Like
Oh
those some
yeah.
fun times for sure.
Mm-hmm. That ball's still bouncing on the rim for Kawhi.
Yeah, basically.
I wonder what happens if that ball does not go in.
I know so much could have changed to be honest. Like Kawhi probably still leaves, but maybe Philadelphia, maybe Embiid's a champion right now. Maybe Jimmy Butler's still in Philly. There's just like so many different things that maybe Ben Simmons is still good at basketball. There's so
Yeah.
many different things.
Well, that game still, I think it would have still gone to overtime, right? Because it was tied.
Oh
So
yeah.
maybe Toronto wins anyway, but yeah, just a crazy moment in NBA history. All right. So, do you have anything else for the show this week, Brady? Or we covered a lot in this episode?
I think that's it for me.
All right. So, yeah, we have for next week's episode, we'll, of course, talk about these game 7s. The Eastern Conference, no matter what happens, the Eastern Conference Finals is supposed to start on Tuesday. So the Celtics are just sitting there waiting, maybe hoping that a bunch more injuries happen so they can just
Continue their easy path.
dominate whoever comes out of that game. And then I'm assuming, I haven't looked at the schedule, but that if the Thunder win Game 6, Game 7 will probably be Monday then, right? Most likely.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yep.
So by the time we record, we'll be a couple games maybe into those series. And so that'll be fun.
Yeah, because I think the Western Conference
West Coast
Finals
starts Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then so we'll probably have 2 games because we'll record
2
after
for both.
the game.
Yep.
Yep. So that'll be.
Yep. So that'll be good. And then we'll be a week closer to the draft. At that point, we'll be right around a month away from the draft. And not necessarily that, even if you're not into like prospects and draft and stuff like that, it is once the finals are over and we get into the draft time, that's when moves start to happen. Trades start to be made. They couldn't technically be made for the let's see, there's 7 teams left right now officially. So yeah, the other 23 could technically make trades right now if they wanted to.
But rarely ever
but
happens.
it's very rare.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that week leading up to the draft, after the finals are over, that's when stuff will start to happen. And some of these situations that we talked about earlier that have huge swings in terms of NBA, just like good teams and stuff like that. Like there's some teams that could build some really big contenders, and there could be some contenders that just absolutely fall apart this offseason. So that kind of stuff will start to shape starting with the draft. So like even if you're not in the draft, it's still really important for team building and trades and all that kind of stuff. And we'll of course continue with our weekly episodes. It's been nice, Brady, doing these consistently every Friday night. We got into the middle of the season and the Blazers just suck so bad. It's just so disappointing to try and
come up with anything to talk about.
Yeah, not only just come up with stuff, but it just like, what are we supposed to do? Talk about another 0-4, 1-3 week?
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. And then you jinxed us with your one tankathon. Way to go.
Oh,
Brady.
yeah.
Our last episode, Brady was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do one tankathon and see what happens." And we ended up with 8th, and it was like so chaotic, right? Like a bunch of teams moved up.
Wasn't Atlanta the one that jumped up in that scenario too?
I think they did. I forget which pick they got, but yeah.
Maybe it was. I don't remember, but it was crazy.
I know it's 4 teams behind us.
I remember during my stream I did a few tankathons, and Atlanta was one of the teams that jumped up in one of my tankathons that I did.
Was it?
Yeah. So, but think that's gonna be it for us, guys. So appreciate y'all watching as always.
Yeah. Well, go check out Crushables YouTube channel. Go check out Blazers Uprise. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, Blazers Uprise Podcast, please do so you can keep tabs on when Brady and I release our Hoops Crush podcast. And then Brady mentioned this last video, but we should probably do it every one we do. We do have these available on wherever you get your podcasts. So if you want to listen to it and not go through YouTube to do that, you can also listen to the audio-only versions wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying these, please leave a like also on the video. It's the easiest way to show your support. And we appreciate all of you. And go ahead and leave your comments. If you're watching this before the Game 7s on Sunday, tell us in the comments below who you got. Pacers or Knicks, or Wolves and Nuggets. Who's going to win those Game 7s? Brady and I love to read all your comments, so don't be afraid to leave more of those. And those of you who do leave comments on most of our videos, we really appreciate that as well. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks again for watching. Until next week, go ahead, Brady.
Peace out. Go Blazers.